Welcome or welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead, where on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Today's Friday, so welcome to an edition of Freeze Dry Friday, where we are going to be doing something again. Last Friday, I showed chocolate-covered cherry bombs, but I didn't go into full detail on it because honestly, I did not think that they were going to come out. I can't freeze dry chocolate. I have not done a whole lot of chocolate, but I do candy for the kids sometimes, and chocolate doesn't freeze dry, it just melts. So I really wasn't sure that this was gonna turn out. Not only did it turn out, it came out phenomenal. The flavor is incredible. They are absolutely decadent, so lovely. So we're gonna make that again. I'm gonna use the rest of the dark tart Montgomery cherries that I have in my freezer, and I've just had them sitting here for about 30 minutes draining. I'm gonna be saving that cherry juice. Kim, thanks for the idea. I might freeze dry this. I'm not sure. It's gonna go in the freezer either way. I'm either gonna put it on a freeze dryer tray to do around when I'm doing some other liquids, or I'll just leave it as is frozen because I am sure that I can get a lot of use out of this. We're gonna fill up 4 trays or until we get through all of the cherries. This is really easy to do. You only need a couple of ingredients. You need the fruit of your choice. Again, I'm using cherries. You need to make a simple syrup, which we're gonna do first, and that is just equal parts of sugar and water, and I'm just using granulated sugar. Let's get that going because then we're gonna need this to cool down before we move on. If you haven't made a simple syrup before, it really couldn't be easier. I've got 1 cup of water, and I'll do 1 cup of sugar. And I might need to make another batch of simple syrup. This might not be enough because there are quite a few cherries left. We're gonna get that turned on high, and then we're just gonna stir that. We're just gonna keep stirring that until all of the sugar dissolves and it looks like it's just water. So right now you can see that there is sugar down there. It's white, and we're just gonna heat this up until it looks like water. And that took about 2 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn the heat off, and we just want to set this aside because the burner retains some heat on it. We want this to cool down because we don't want to cook the cherries. So we're just gonna let that sit while we get out the rest of our ingredients. To make the chocolate, I'm gonna use equal parts of powdered sugar and cocoa powder. The cocoa powder I get from Azure Standard, and it is just organic cocoa powder, 100%. And this is powdered sugar that I had made myself, which is really easy to do. You just take white granulated sugar and you put it through your food processor until it turns into a powder. I'm gonna use what I have here, and then I'm gonna switch to Swerve because I still have like 3 of these packages that are over a year old. Best by March of 2025. Yeah, so we don't have much time left on these bags for the Best By date. So I'm gonna try Swerve in this recipe. Hopefully it comes out okay. 100% cocoa powder, so there's no sweetness to it whatsoever, and it can be messy. And this does not have to be perfect. In fact, once you mix this together, you're gonna taste it, and you're gonna decide if it's sweet enough, too sweet, and you can make some adjustments. I think I did roughly half and half last time. I didn't measure it. I started out with just the cocoa powder, but then when I tried that over a cherry, especially because these cherries are tart, there was just no sweetness to it at all, and it really didn't taste good. So I just kept adding a little bit of powdered sugar to it until I liked the flavor, and I think that that was about half and half, but I might make an adjustment here once I taste it, which is what I would recommend for you as well. And then I'm just gonna get that thoroughly mixed together. And I'm just using a Danish dough whisk. You can use a fork, you can use a regular whisk, whatever you want. I am gonna get in here with my hands because there does seem to be quite a few lumps in here that I just wanna break down. And if you did see the video last Friday, you saw that I had part of a tray with this sauce on it, and that came out so good. So if there is extra left over at the end, I will do that again because that came out like a chocolate ginger snap cookie. It was so incredibly good. That tastes like really deep, dark chocolate. I think I'm gonna add just a little bit more of the Swerve. I like this. I'm a dark chocolate kind of person, but I'll make it just a little sweeter. Others. So that was, I don't know, what was that? Maybe 1/4 cup more. You're the one who's gonna be consuming this if you try it, so make sure it is to your liking before you move on. Give that a taste. A little too sweet for me, but I know that others will really like that. So that's what we're gonna go with. And you can see here that our simple syrup is ready. You don't see any sugar crystals at the bottom. It just looks like liquid. And that's cooled down enough that we can go ahead and get started. It's been maybe 5 minutes. All I'm going to do is take some cherries. I've got a slotted spoon here. I want it slotted for the chocolate portion of this. I'm gonna pick up some cherries, and since these were previously frozen and then defrosted, they're deflated. These are pitted cherries. And I'm just gonna drop them into the simple syrup, and I will do all of these, although if I have to make more simple syrup, I'll probably do that off camera and then just bring you back when all the trays are loaded up, because this is a little tedious. Same thing over and over again times a lot of cherries. I'm just getting them good and coated with the simple syrup, which is going to add a tiny bit of sweetness to them. It's also going to be sticky from the sugar, and that's what's gonna help hold the chocolate powder on. I'm gonna put in as much cherries as this simple syrup holds, as long as they can all get coated. And we're looking pretty good. That was easy, right? We're just getting all of the cherries soaked and sticky in that simple syrup. Now we need to get some chocolate on them. And to do that, I've got my slotted spoon, so that's gonna allow me to pick up cherries without picking up extra syrup. And I'm just gonna drop them by the spoonful into our chocolate powder. And then the slotted spoon is also going to help me pick them back out of the chocolate powder without picking up a whole bunch of extra powder. Maybe I'll do 3 spoonfuls here at a time. And then I'm just gonna mix them all up and then pick them back up and put them onto the freeze dryer trays. Another reason why you didn't want a bunch of clumpy chocolate in here. Should probably look for a spoon that has bigger slots, but this is what we're going with. And at this point, you could actually taste it just to make sure your ratios are good on the sweet. These are good. Now, I am gonna put them back in the sauce once they're on all the trays and do this one more time. I don't know if that was the trick to it last time, but they came out so good. I think that having that extra sugar on top, the extra syrup on top of this chocolate is what made them puff and really freeze dry well. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. Right now I'm just doing the first coat and then we do one more coat. So one more pass at this. I think that's pretty good. Maybe another easier, faster way to do this would be to put all your cherries in the bowl, get them all coated with the chocolate, and then pour them through a strainer. That might even be quicker. I'm gonna stir this back around because some of them were sticking out of the simple syrup, and I just wanna make sure that they're wet and coated before they go into the chocolate powder. This is working well. Just passing it between your hands with your fingers slightly separated, and then the powder can fall off back into the bowl. I don't wanna lose a ton of powder on my tray, which I had been doing at first, because we need to do a second pass through here. And you can use any kind of cocoa powder that you have, even probably Hershey milk chocolate would work, I would think. So the chocolate is getting wet now from all of the simple syrup that we put in here. And this is what I meant on last week's video, where that last tray had more wet chocolate on the outside that looked like true chocolate versus powder. And that is what I'm going for, which is why we're gonna do a second pass on these. Even though I did some that were just powder and they seemed to come out just fine. This time I'm gonna experiment a little bit with getting them all dark and wet on the outside so that it looks more like true chocolate. I think those ones had the bigger puff, the bigger like Rice Krispie looking patterns through them, which is so delightful. I'm gonna do another 1 cup of each in here. Trust me, if you have extra chocolate powder and simple syrup, you're gonna be able to make those amazing freeze-dried chocolate cookies. And the reason I'm putting these all on one freeze dryer tray to start is because I'm gonna redistribute these after I get them coated again. I think we only have maybe 2 more passes in this bowl, 1 or 2. This doesn't take too long. It did the first time I did this because I was using a fork and I was going like cherry by cherry. But they're not that delicate. You don't have to do that. You can find ways to make it quicker, like this. Oh, maybe I won't do the cherry juice in this batch. I want to make some chocolate cookies in this batch. Ooh, some tart cherry flavored chocolate cookies. Remember, the cherries have been soaking in that simple syrup, so it's flavored with the cherries. I'm definitely going to try this with banana slices for sure. Chocolate covered banana slices. Wow. All right, that is it. And our sauce is now chocolatey from the spoon that's going back and forth between these bowls. I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up here in a second to show you what I mean between the ones that are dry versus the ones that are wet. Maybe I won't do it with all of them, but some of them I'm gonna pass back through to see if we can get a better, truer chocolatey coating on them. like the ones that are wet. Down here on this end, you can see that they're darker. They're actually wet from the sauce versus these ones are dry. I want to get them more like this. So my thought is, because that's what I did the first time when I was trying to figure out how to make this work, I had put them through and then I didn't like that. So then I put them back through, and towards the end, they had turned dark like this just from having that extra simple syrup sauce on them, especially now that it's chocolatey. So let's try that. Let's pass some of these back through and see if it's worth the effort. You can see our sauce is chocolatey and a little cherry as well. I'm just going to put some on my spoon. Pass them back through. Oh yeah, look at that. Chocolate stayed on actually. A lot of it did. And then we'll get them mixed up in here. And then laid out. These smell so good, so chocolatey. I'm gonna call that tray good. If I need to put them closer together because I need more on a tray, I will do that. But for now, I'm just gonna set that one aside and start filling up tray number 2. It's gonna be easier if I wash my hands because they're just so sticky now. So give me a minute. This is just a chocolatey good mess, as you can see. I'm gonna get my trays finished filling, and then I'll bring you back to show you if I'm able to do those cookies, how I do that, and what the trays look like fully loaded before I put them into the freezer. I am gonna pre-freeze these. When I did it last time, I pre-froze them overnight. It was about 12 to 15 hours in the freezer, and then they only took 27 hours in the freeze dryer. So pretty good cycle time on these as well. They don't take a long time. No more difficult than making other baked treats at home. Yeah, see how they're just so sticky and chocolatey now, but this is what you want. Well, at least that's what I want. I'm having fun with this experiment. All right, I'm gonna finish filling the trays. I just got the last of the cherries onto a tray. I filled 5 trays plus 3/4 of a tray. So we're gonna turn this into 2 freeze dryer sessions. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the rest of this chocolate, which I did have to make more. So a cup of each, the chocolate powder and the powdered sugar. I just did a cup of each in this one. I did not make more simple syrup. There's still some in here. It's not much, but I'm gonna pour the chocolate in and we're gonna get that stirred up until it's a little bit pasty. And then I'm gonna put it on here and one more freeze dryer tray. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Maybe we'll do more, we'll see. So we've got some liquid down here still, and I'm gonna pour some of this chocolate in and get that mixed together. Remember, we've got the tart cherry flavor in here from the cherries. That's still pretty thin. I'm looking for it to be more like this, really thick and chocolatey. So probably gonna pour the rest of this in there. And depending on how much this makes, I might do one more simple syrup and just add the chocolate and the powdered sugar directly in here, because I'm telling you, this makes an incredible no-bake freeze-dried chocolate cookie. Incredible. This is good. This is thicker. I don't know if you can see, but it's thicker. Still pourable, but thicker. So let's get that onto the tray. These are ones that did not go back through the simple syrup and then the chocolate again. This one's on the white liner. I'm gonna do 1 or 2 more trays for 2 full freeze dryer loads, but I'll make those into actual cookies, where this is just gonna be a big block that can be separated, broken into pieces. You can see the consistency. It's pretty thick. I'm just gonna stick that there. It'll stay. It'll stay if I put these up against it. There we go. Let's get the lid on these, and I'm gonna get these into the freezer. I'll show you the other trays. Here's tray 1. I'm gonna put the ones that I'm gonna do through the first freeze dryer run with my shallower tops that stack. Here's tray 2. And this is my broken lid top, but it still works. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'll see you back when these come out tomorrow and they're ready to go into the freeze dryer. These are frozen enough. They've been in there for about 15 hours, maybe a little bit longer. I only did about the same amount of time last time to pre-freeze them, so these are ready to go. I'll give you a close-up when we get over to the freeze dryer. I'm really hoping I can get to the store today. I need to. I have to get Molly her meds. So we definitely have to go. I just don't know if I can get there early. It's snowing. It's not coming down a lot, but by noon it is supposed to. We've got the 4 trays. So what I'm doing the first time is the tray that has that chocolate sauce on it. And I think I actually have a little bit of the chocolate sauce left over from last time. So I'm gonna thaw that out and do that in the second round because that was made with the regular powdered sugar versus this was made with the Swerve powdered sugar. So we'll do a taste test difference on that as well. I'm really hoping all of these come out because I used the Swerve instead of the regular. I have high hopes. So let's get these over there. I'll give you a close up and let's start freeze drying. We can get our trays loaded in. Here is tray number 1. You can tell most of these are darker. They had the second dunk on them. I think these are gonna be great. Second tray looks just as lovely. Third tray, and on here you can see that some of them did not have the second dunk, and so they're just more powdery than they are chocolatey. We'll see how those come out. There's another one that's more powdery. Difference between the two. So I think the second dunk makes them look more appetizing. We'll see how they come out. On this tray, it's easier to see because we have more on here that didn't get the second dunk, so you can totally see the color difference. And here's the sauce. And this will just bake up or freeze dry up into kind of like a big cookie that you can just break apart. I would like to do a tray with sauce in rounds as individual cookies. I'll try that in the next go round. So we're just gonna get the drain valve closed. And then we just need to push continue. It should be about the same time as last time, I would think, about 27 or so hours. This is Monday morning, so these should be done by noon tomorrow. Hopefully on my lunch break, I'll be able to get them out and we can put the second round in. I was able to get to the store tonight and I picked up 1 mango that I cut into pieces, and I just cut them into pieces and laid them out onto the tray just to make sure I had room for everything. I also did 1 banana and 2 kiwi. I cut the seeds out of the kiwi, and I'll tell you why. I have a short window to get this done, to upload it as part of Friday's video with the cherries, and seeds can take a long time to dry. You're gonna wanna do extra dry time when you're doing something with seeds. That's why I chose this fruit, and I knew I could get the seeds out of the kiwis. I just peeled the kiwi, I quartered it, and then I'm taking a melon baller and scraping it out. And then once that core is out, all I have to do is very gently with the melon baller, scrape those black seeds that are very easy to see. It's a little slippery. This is a very ripe kiwi, the very ripe mango, and very ripe banana too. I think that's gonna be important for this from a sweetness perspective. These just come out really easy. Make sure I get all of them, because we don't want seeds holding moisture that will potentially ruin this by not being dry in storage. So now we have a piece that has no more seeds in it. And we have filled up our tray there. So 1 banana, 2 kiwi, 1 mango, and space to put some little chocolate drops for cookies. I already have my powder mixed up. I did a half and half this time. I'm gonna pour the powder into this bowl. I'm just going with what bowls I have clean right now. I'm gonna leave some of it in the glass bowl because I think for these, what I'm going to do is just dip them into wet chocolate. These are wet enough. I want to try it that way. So I've got my simple syrup already made and a little bit cooled down. I'm just going to pour that into my chocolate and powdered sugar mix. And then I'm just going to make sure it's the right consistency, adding more chocolate as needed. And fingers crossed this comes out. This is pretty wet, so I'm going to add a little more chocolate. That was simple syrup, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of cocoa powder, 1 cup of powdered sugar. It should be the right ratio. We'll see. It is mixing through. It's just taking a minute. Maybe it would be better to leave the sauce hot. You can try that. It is mixing through though. We're almost there. And that's still pretty watery. You see that? Let me see if I can thicken that up just a little bit by adding the rest of that cocoa powder and powdered sugar. We have a ton of chocolate now, more than I'm going to be able to use, but that's okay because I know that I can freeze dry just the chocolate, even on its own, to make those cookies, those no-bake freeze-dried cookies. All I'm going to do is get a fork. I'm just going to pick up 1 piece, dunk it in the chocolate, and put it back down on the parchment paper. I am using parchment paper. This will stick. This will stick a lot. Picking up a piece of fruit, dunking it in the bowl, shaking off some of the chocolate, and then putting it back down. And we still have quite a bit left over. We probably went through just 2/3 of that. So you could probably finish 4 trays with maybe 1.5 times this amount. These look fantastic. There's our mango. The chocolate, it did spread out a bit. That's okay. That's gonna freeze dry. Here's our lovely bananas and kiwi. Now I'm gonna make some little cookie dollop on the end of here, and I'm gonna call those a no-bake chocolate freeze-dried cookie. I am gonna use this sauce because the sauce that I had made and set aside just didn't hold up, so don't try to save this. Just use it all. I'm just gonna do small little rounds and we'll see how those come out. I'm gonna dot some more over the top of these because some of it fallen off or just didn't get it where the fork was on the mango. But other than that, these look really good. So I've got a little bit of extra sauce here that I'm gonna be wasting, but that's okay. We've got some cookies down here, mango, kiwi, and banana. I'm gonna get these into the freezer and I will bring you back when we're swapping the trays from the freeze dryer. First batch out, this batch in. 25 hours on this run. I'm gonna check and see if it's done because this is the time when I have time available. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to let it go for about 5 more hours because of my day today. I'm going to open the drain valve. And once that's done, I can open the door and let's give these a look. They do look dry. I have to take them into the kitchen to test them, but let me break one of them apart. They do look dry. I gotta say they don't look as good as the batch I did first, and that is probably because of the sugar substitute that I used. And so we'll see how these taste. They do look dry, so we're gonna test those. I'm not gonna defrost this because all we have is some frosting on the rings. There's no real ice buildup in here, and I can get the next batch going right away if these are dry. So let's go give them a test and take a closer look. These ones don't look quite as puffy and as beautiful as the last batch did. They do feel dry though, so let's give that a try. They're really good. They are really, really good. That chocolate is good. I think they're dry. Let me try this big piece of chocolate here. This is just the chocolate I put on the tray. This didn't get that nice puff that the last batch did either, but I'm gonna try it. Definitely dry. Definitely chocolatey. It's delicious. It is really delicious, but this did not get that Rice Krispie puff that the last batch did. So use real sugar if you want that puff, but these are really tasty. I like that a lot. And knowing that this is 100% cocoa powder with 0-calorie sweetener, this is truly healthy for you. So I'm gonna put everything into a 1-gallon glass jar for now until the second batch is done. And then I will decide how I wanna divvy everything up, because I will likely be giving some of this, or maybe even a lot of this, to my Azure driver, because we like to give a treat to our Azure driver once a month when we have our pickup, and only a couple of us participate in that. So I always bring something just in case nobody else does. And this last pickup, I did have cookies on me and nobody had brought anything, and oh, he was so thankful. Those guys are long haul truckers sitting behind the wheel, driving literally across country and back. Nice to have a little snack, a little something to show our appreciation and something that he would enjoy. I think for now, I'm just gonna put the chocolate pieces in here, and you can hear how dry this is. And it is dry and so good. but the texture is not as good as last week. You can use the Swerve, probably stevia, something like that, if you want to keep the calories down and not have sugar, but you're not gonna get that puff like we got last week. I am glad I tried this. Now I know. I would probably go back to the real sugar next time I do this, just because I really like that airy, puffy crunch. We have a nice amount of just chocolate squares here. So I'm gonna dump the rest of these. Let me get them off the parchment paper. So definitely more than half a gallon worth of chocolate cherry bombs. Let me just double check. They're dry and they're good. Texture-wise, not as good as last week. Our chocolate nuggets, I guess we'll call them. The cherry flavor on these is awesome. I can't wait to try the other batch in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the freeze dryer. It's gonna need, I think, a 5-minute rest period before I start it back up again, and then we'll get the next trays loaded. When you do a back-to-back load, the freeze dryer, at least on the Harvest Right original medium, which is what I have, the compressor needs a 5-minute cool down before you start the process again, which takes 15 minutes. We're now at the 17-minute mark, so it's been 22 minutes. Now, these look better, more glossy, more like chocolate. These are the mangoes. The difference here was the pre-mixed sauce. Remember, I just mixed the cocoa powder, the Swerve powdered sugar, and the simple syrup together before coating it, and this looks better. We'll see how it comes out. I was actually contemplating seeing if I could sneak in one more round, going back to sugar and doing these fruits again. Here's our kiwi and banana. Kiwi and banana. These look good. And then these are more of the cherries from that original batch that I pre-froze ahead of these. And again, they're not as glossy, they're just a lot more dull. These ones actually look dry. So I think we're gonna have mixed results on this tray. Some of them might come out better than others, but I think these two will come out way better than these from a texture and visual perspective, but they all taste pretty good. And this tray looks even drier. This will be interesting. This is only going to take about 24 hours again, maybe up to 35 because of the new fruit. What is today? Today's Tuesday, so I can get this done by Wednesday night. I might be able to sneak in one more round. If I can, I will. And we'll go back to the regular sugar to mix with the cocoa powder, and we'll see how the bananas, the mango, and the kiwi come out. Let's get this drain valve closed. And then just push continue. I'll see you back tomorrow where we will either be doing some more fruit or just packaging these up. We'll see. For the last batch we're gonna put in the freezer, I'm going back to my original recipe, which uses real powdered sugar. So 1 cup of granulated sugar in a high-powered blender or mixer for 15 seconds or so, and you get a beautiful batch of powdered sugar. It's lovely. I'm just gonna pour that into a bowl. It was pre-measured at 1 cup. I think that we got a little bit more than that out of it, but then we try to compensate for that here. We're gonna mix that with 1 cup of the cocoa powder and just get that all mixed together. Now, continuing on with a little bit of experimentation, I decided to pre-mix the chocolate with the simple syrup. So the simple syrup was 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup of water, heat until completely melted, and then I am just mixing it in with the cocoa powder and the granulated sugar to make a chocolate sauce. And that just takes a couple minutes to get that all stirred together. And we're starting with some new fruit. So I've got some mango and some banana. And I'm not liking how that is coming out. It's just kind of running off of the fruit. So I'm gonna split this chocolate sauce up into 2, and I'm gonna add some condensed sweetened milk to 1/2 of the chocolate, hoping that that's gonna thicken it up a bit and help it stick a little bit better. Unfortunately, that is not working as intended, so I decide I'm going to try to bulk up the sauce a little bit by adding some more cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is not sweetened, but we added extra sweetener with that sweetened condensed milk, so that's my thought process there. So just taking a minute to get everything mixed back through, and we'll try this again. This looks a little more promising. It is thicker. It does seem to be staying on, at least initially, as I'm putting them on the trays. So I'm hopeful, and even if I don't get the outcome that I'm hoping for from a coverage and a puff perspective, I am definitely interested in tasting these to see if they're any good with sweetened condensed milk on them. And once I get the uncovered fruit covered, I go back and just try to add a little bit more to the fruit I've already done where the chocolate has already slid off completely. And you can see that the tray here is completely covered in chocolate at this point. Not necessarily a bad thing because you can break off that chocolate and eat it as freeze-dried chocolate, but definitely am not getting the desired results that I want from this. I actually end up later taking this back out of the freezer and starting over because this just ended up being a mess. And while we did waste some chocolate sauce, I'm still calling it a win because I learned something. So if you learn something, it's not a waste. Now we're moving on to the apples and the bananas, and that seems to be going a little bit better. It is the same bowl of chocolate, but it has the sweetened condensed milk in it, whereas the other tray I started out with the regular chocolate. It was much thinner, and so even when it was mixing with the sweetened condensed milk batch, it was still pretty runny. So this works out just a little bit better. And once we get all the apples covered, I move on to the bananas. I'm really excited about the chocolate covered bananas. I would encourage you to give those a try. The pre-mixing of the ingredients like this really makes the process go a whole lot faster than trying to individually dunk fruit into simple syrup and then into powder and then back into the syrup and then the chocolate again. That's very time consuming and tedious, but after this tray I realized that that is the way to go because that is how I got the best results on the very first batch. So we do go back to that here in just a minute. I still think that anybody could get this to work if the batter is much thicker from the get-go. So if I ever do try this again, which I think at this point I have a year's or 2 years worth of chocolate covered fruit, if I ever do this again, then that's what I'll do. So in order to go back to the 100% same recipe that I used the first time, I need to make some more powdered sugar. So back in the blender we go. And then I'm just gonna mix that up with the chocolate powder. And I've already got my simple syrup on the stove made. And I've got 2 trays now of new fresh fruit. So this is the method that I did for last Friday's video that came out amazing. So hopefully we will get the same results from that. We first put the fruit inside of the simple syrup, then you put it into the cocoa powder / powdered sugar mix, and then put it on the tray. I do all of them that way first, and then I put them back into the simple syrup and get them recoated, and then back into the chocolate, and then back onto the trays, spread out like I'm going to freeze dry them. This is what worked for me the first time, and you saw throughout this very long video that I experimented with a few different ways of doing this. And I think this is the way you're going to get the best result. With the mangoes and the bananas done, I'm moving on to the tray with the apples and the bananas, starting with the apples, getting everything mixed into the syrup and then into the powder. The syrup at this point is really chocolatey because the spoon has been going back and forth between the pot and the bowl, and that comes in handy, and it did the first time I did this as well. So starting with the apples, we're doing the first coat of just the simple syrup and the cocoa powder, and once those are done, we move on to the bananas. Same process for each different type of fruit or for each tray. Just get them soaked in the simple syrup, pour them from the simple syrup into the chocolate powder, mix them around so they're well coated, put them back on the trays. And at this point in my pan, I have a really chocolatey sauce, and in the bowl, I have a really thick syrup of chocolate. So I'm mixing those together, and now this is the second coat for everything. This is how I did it the first time. This is what came out phenomenal. I think we're gonna get really good results with this one like I did last week. This is the last tray, and it's the second tray that I'm doing in the original recipe. So the first 2, I did that trial with pre-mixing the chocolate together, adding in condensed and sweetened milk, and those are already in the freezer. So this is the final, second last tray, doing it the original way again. I think that we'll have a good comparison between the 2 when these come out of the freeze dryer. And so this is what I consider the second coat. They've been dry coated, and now I'm putting them back in that really thick, because there wasn't that much syrup left when I added it to the remaining chocolate powdered sugar mix, so that this sauce is much thicker. And this is the last step, and we are finally done. And I am chocolated out at this point, happy to be finished. So these are just gonna go into the freezer overnight, and when the freeze dryer is done with the batch that's currently in there, these will go in tomorrow, and they should be done Thursday night in time for me to edit and get going. We're at the 30-hour, 46-minute mark, so just shy of 31 hours, but I did throw 4 extra hours on this today because I was back-to-back, did not get a break today at work, so I just threw hours on until I knew I would be done with work. Looks like the chocolate sauce in here came out great. Can't really tell on the actual covered fruit. Let's open the drain valve so we can open this and take a look. Look at this. We got really, really good puff on that. Look at this. Ooh, look at this chocolate sauce. Oh, you know what? It's so fragile. There we go. I know the lighting in here is bad at night. It is about 5:30. So this looks done. And these are definitely the bananas. And these are, I think, are our mangoes and really puffy, airy chocolate over here. And here is the cherries from the first batch that I did 2 extra trays of. And more of those cherries. So let's get everything into the kitchen. I'm not going to defrost. There's barely any ice in here. I'm just going to give it its 5-minute cool down and then restart it. So no defrost. And just to show you what this says, if I were to try to start another load immediately, I'm going to push start. And it says the condenser needs to equalize, so it's not going to let me for about 5 minutes. So that's fine. It's gonna take us that long to get these things packaged up. I'm excited about the results we got on this batch, especially of the sauce. Are these the little cookies I tried to make? I'm gonna have to go back and watch this segment. This is light as air. It's just light as air. This would likely not package up very well because it is incredibly delicate and incredibly decadent. Wow, that's really good. I'm gonna put this in glass. I'm just gonna break it up so it'll fit in here with the other chocolates that we did. You can totally see the difference here. This is just flat and dense. This is light, airy, puffy. So let me just get these moved in here. You're gonna have to be so incredibly gentle handling this if you decide to make just the blocks of chocolate, which are definitely worth trying because they're super good, but they're incredibly delicate. So just a fun, maybe little treat to have for people. The mangoes that I have here on the tray, I'm gonna have to go back on the video and look. I can't remember the difference between these just yet because it feels like I've been doing these every single day and they're kind of getting lost in my head. The mangoes are a solid mass, so this chocolate really spread in the freezer. So I'm gonna have to break these apart. I am just going to break them into pieces, and for now I'm just gonna put them into quart-sized mason jars. I don't have any big jars to use right now that have lids. I'm just gonna break these up, but we will give them a try. I'm not exactly thrilled with the composition. Let me see if I can show you a good one here. Covered front and back with chocolate, but this is the mango, and then this is the spread of the chocolate. I think it'll still be delicious. So that means there was too much liquid and not enough of the powder in the sauce that I used on these trays. It's crunchy, it's chocolatey, and that mango flavor is really good with chocolate. I'm just gonna break these up, and once all the trays are done, so I've got one more batch to put in here, then I will decide how to package these up. I have a feeling that a lot of this is gonna be set aside for treats for people. My Azure Standard driver, I know my son and his friends like to discover the new freeze-dried treats that I make. These just be fun. So that is a full quart-sized jar of mango chocolate. Now let's look at our bananas. So here again in Better Light is just that chocolate sauce. Incredibly airy and light, and that'll just dissolve in your mouth. It's crispy and crunchy, but it's gonna just dissolve right in your mouth. Then we have our bananas, and we did get a nice puff on those bananas. I'll put chocolate in here first, carefully. It's very delicate. I suppose if somebody had a chocolate craving, this would be a good go-to. So here's a banana. Listen for the crunch. Oh, that's incredible. The chocolate-covered bananas are amazing. That is incredible. Wow, I love that. That is so good. This is definitely worth doing, especially with the bananas. I think the bananas are actually my favorite so far. And this chocolate freeze-dried beautifully. It's so light and airy and crispy. It did puff up. This is beautiful. It's hard to tell what these are now. So I'll start a new jar for mango. I'm glad that these taste really yummy because we definitely have more coming. But again, we did have spread. So we have mango, mango, mango. I think you can see it. And then the chocolate spread. So add more of the dry ingredients to your simple syrup to make it thicker to reduce the spread, which I did try to do on 2 of the trays that are in the freezer going into the freeze dryer next. This is banana. This is more mango. This is a lot of chocolate. And here is the jar with the other chocolate cherry bombs that we did. And these are exact same. They're from the same batch. And once again, remind you, they're a dry looking chocolate. They don't have like a gloss to them. They're delicious, but no puff on the chocolate. They're just chocolate flavored, chocolate covered cherries. But I wouldn't call that necessarily freeze-dried chocolate because it doesn't have the real sugar in it. It didn't puff. So they're delicious. If you're trying to cut down on your sugar consumption, you can definitely use Swerve. It's not real sugar, so it's not gonna puff like candy does because it's not real sugar. That's my guess. It's still delicious. And this does it for the cherries. That's the last of them, but we did get a gallon of it. That's a lot. And the difference here in tasting this after having the banana and the mango, this batch definitely tastes more like a dark chocolate versus these taste sweeter, maybe because the fruit is sweeter, whereas this was tart cherries. Not a lot of sweetness to those. So if you like dark chocolate, this would be a good thing to try. So far, we ended up with 1 gallon of chocolate cherry bites, a half gallon almost of freeze-dried chocolate brittle, some chocolate covered bananas. These are amazing. 1.5 quarts of freeze-dried chocolate mango. All right, here is tray number 1 of our bananas and mango. And it is kind of disappointing. The chocolate did not stay on at all. It was way too liquidy. And I saw that was happening as I was making these. And so that's why I tried to compensate for that. I ended up adding the condensed sweetened milk to the syrup, but it did not help it hold on at all. Maybe this will puff up and it'll look more covered when it's done. I'm not really happy with that result. It's just that the fruit is not even covered. It's just got a very thin dusting on it, but we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. This was the very first tray that I did, and it is also kind of a soupy mess, although it does look to be a little bit more covered. We've got the apples and the bananas on this tray. And here's where I went back to my original recipe. This was the 3rd and 4th tray. This is bananas and mangoes, so I'll put these on the bottom. This is how I did the very first ones that I showed in the video last week. These look great. They're all covered with chocolate. The chocolate didn't get a lot of spread to it. It stayed on the fruit. So I think we're gonna get good results from this one. And this one. Again, apples and bananas. The lighting in here is horrible at night. So bananas and apples. Whew, those are cold, freezing. They're loaded in, so I'm just gonna close the drain valve. Press continue. And hopefully see you back here in about 24 hours because it's Wednesday night. So if this finishes tomorrow night, fingers crossed, I'll be able to edit it and get it uploaded on Friday. See you tomorrow. I thought I would save you a 3rd trip to my freeze dryer and just pull these out. And when I went to get them, it was at 27 hours just now. I'm lucky I even got these trays out. Same with this guy. And that's just these 2 trays. So these 2 trays had the sweetened condensed milk on them. I won't do that again. Maybe they taste really good. I don't even know what to say about this. This is definitely the mango over here. There might be a banana. No, this is all mango. It is just a huge puff ball. I don't even know what to say about this. And I need to be careful not to drop any of this on the floor. So I decided when I saw this, I thought, oh, I should bring the camera over. And then I thought, no, I better not because I have to take these out very carefully so nothing spills just because of the dogs. This is insane. This is crazy. I don't even know what's in here. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, it just looks like chocolate. Did I do cookies on this tray? This is just oh, no. Oh, these are the apples. Wow. All right, let's try an apple. If I can pull one out. All right, so this is an apple, though it's very hard to tell that. It's an apple. All right, let me give this a little taste. I'm kind of chocolated out at this point, seriously. It's actually really good chocolate. And I can taste a little bit of the apple in there as well. I'll break these down and figure out how to package those up. The chocolate is phenomenal. If you like sweet chocolate, it's phenomenal. Let me try one of these mangoes. They're just puffed up like crazy. Oh, this is a lot of chocolate in my system for a week. Wow. That chocolate is phenomenal. And the flavor is better on the mango than on the apple because the mango is just bringing more flavor than the apple, although you can taste the apple. All right, I'm gonna plate some of these up to show you. So let's take one of those. Let me get an apple. I can find another single apple in here. I'm gonna package these up off camera. This is a really, really long video, and it is 10:15 on Thursday night, and I still have to edit. I'll package these up on my own. You've seen me do that a few times now. Trays 3 and 4. This is the original recipe that I used. This is the tray with the bananas and the apples. This is a regular simple syrup, and then a chocolate sauce using granulated sugar and cocoa powder. And then you coat the fruit in the simple syrup. Then you put them into the dry chocolate mix, and then back into the simple syrup, back into the dry chocolate mix, and they come out great. So we have banana and recognizable apple wedge. This tray came out just as good. We've got bananas here and mango with a little spread. All right, here's a little mango, just a little one. Not bad. The mango flavor's coming. You definitely want to use ripe fruit. And then the banana, which I am looking forward to trying again because those were so far my favorite. 100%. That is phenomenal. So let me get a couple pieces here. Because even though I'm going to package this up off camera, I am going to bring you in to show you the differences between the different batches that we did. So let me bring you down and show you that. Here is the chocolate cherry bombs that I did a week ago. They have amazing Rice Krispie puffiness to them. The chocolate flavor is incredible. These are fantastic. They're really good. This is the second batch that we did where we played around with the swerve and started out with, I think, wet chocolate sauce. And they came out good. They came out okay. You can see that this is just a dense piece of chocolate here for the sauce that I freeze dried. But the bananas came out good. The kiwi came out good. The mango came out good. And then these, of course, were the leftover chocolate cherry bombs that we did. So this is our second batch. And the chocolate came out great on this, although it is very fragile, but it still came out good. The flavor is incredible. The bananas came out really well, and so did the mango. I'm pleased with that one too. I'm not as pleased with this chocolate as I was with the last week's chocolate. This is just really too fragile. Whereas this is hard. I don't mind it hard. You just have to know that you're going to be biting into something that is denser, but the flavor is good. And then here's the original recipe again, but with different fruit. So we've got the banana, the apple. Actually, I think that's, what is that? We definitely, oh yeah, so we just did them different ways. So the bigger puff is from having the sweetened condensed milk in it, and then the original recipe, mango and banana. And here is just some of the chocolate sauce from the one that had the sweetened condensed milk in it. So all different ways that you can freeze dry chocolate depending on what you like, what your preference is as far as texture and taste goes, as well as possibly any dietary restrictions you have. This is, well, it's not sugar-free because we use a simple syrup with sugar, but it was only dipped in that. The coating that we used on it was the swerve. So variations for you to try. I would highly suggest going with this method, which was the result I got on last Friday's video, and then the very last two trays I did on this video. Those are the best, in my opinion. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Freeze Dry Friday. How to freeze dry chocolate covered fruit edition. My name is Kelly. You're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.